WrestleMania 42 is no longer set for New Orleans. Let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? It is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, on this special breaking news edition of the WrestleHavoc news. We got a lot of things to talk about on this edition of the show. Before we get into all this craziness, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And without any further ado, let's get straight into the news. So earlier today, WrestleNomics broke the story that WrestleMania 42 is no longer set to be taking place in New Orleans, Louisiana. WrestleMania 42 was originally set to take place on Saturday, April 11th and Sunday, April 12th, 2026. Once again, I'm reading this from WrestleNomics. Despite an announcement earlier this year, WrestleMania will not take place in New Orleans in 2026, according to a statement provided Thursday to WrestleNomics. The statement provided by the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation indicates that the event is being rescheduled to a later unspecified year. New Orleans was announced as the 2026 host city in February during a segment on SmackDown featuring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson revealing the location. Rather than WrestleMania, WWE's Money in the Bank Premium Live event will be held in New Orleans in 2026. This news follows the recently announced UFC 318 card set for July 19th, 2025 at the Smoothie King Center in the city. The events are part of the broader quote-unquote multi-event, multi-year agreement being negotiated between the local organizations and WWE and UFC's parent company, TKO Holdings. Now, right off the bat, this news is shocking, simply because of the fact that when was the last time we had WWE announce a WrestleMania at a certain location, only for a couple of months later to pull that event from that city that they announced months prior? It is absolutely insane, man. WWE literally went all out. They had The Rock show up on SmackDown announcing WrestleMania in New Orleans, and all of a sudden, that event is no longer going to be taking place in New Orleans. Instead of getting WrestleMania, they're going to be getting Money in the Bank. But I will say this, the biggest thing to come out of this whole story is that there's clearly a higher bidder. Now, when this story first broke, everybody immediately assumed that an international market was bidding on WrestleMania, and they beat New Orleans to the punch last minute. A lot of wrestling personalities on social media, a lot of wrestling fans, including myself, thought that places like London, England, and Saudi Arabia were one of those bidders. Because keep in mind, WWE has a long-standing relationship with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia pays WWE millions of dollars to produce these events, I believe twice a year. Not to mention, they're going to be having the Royal Rumble next year. Also, keep in mind, Nick Khan and Triple H took a photo with the mayor of London, England, basically teasing, hey, WrestleMania could possibly take place at Wembley Stadium if you pay us an enormous amount of money. Because WWE doesn't just choose a city and books WrestleMania just for the sake of booking a WrestleMania. WrestleMania, and not just WrestleMania, basically, essentially the big four, and if you really want to add Money in the Bank, they're the big five. Those big PLEs are shows that cities bid for. Why do you think SummerSlam is going to be taking place in my home state of New Jersey? Because New Jersey paid WWE top dollar to host SummerSlam at MetLife Stadium. It's the same thing with this scenario. New Orleans originally was the highest bidder, but from what it looks like, New Orleans is no longer the highest bidder. So a lot of people, including myself, thought that either London, England, or Saudi Arabia were possibly the hosts for next year's WrestleMania. Imagine if WrestleMania took place at Saudi Arabia next year. It'd be disappointing on my end, but thankfully that is most likely not going to be the case, simply because of the fact that we're going to have the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Imagine we had the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania both in Saudi Arabia. Oh my God. But London would be huge because WWE's always wanted to produce a show at Wembley Stadium, and let's be real with ourselves, they want to beat the attendance numbers that AEW made at Wembley Stadium. You know for a fact WWE wants to enter to Wembley Stadium and say, hey, we sold 80,000 seats on back-to-back nights at Wembley Stadium. You know for a fact WWE wants to do that. And imagine if London was the host city for WrestleMania. London would get both WrestleMania and All In at the same year. Bro, they'd be eating good. But from what it looks like, that is not going to be the case, because NOLA.com reported that Las Vegas would be the host site of WrestleMania 42 in 2026. So according to NOLA, it was reported that Las Vegas would be the host site of WrestleMania in 2026 for a second consecutive year. The Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, which played a key role in bringing the 2025 event to the city, didn't immediately respond to our message seeking confirmation. So this is huge news. So from what it looks like, WrestleMania is going to be taking place in Las Vegas. next year. And in my opinion, that is a big fumble on WWE's end. I understand Las Vegas is probably going to pay him the most money. And look, WWE's a business. They're going to go where the money's at. That's just how they operate, and that's how they should operate. It's a business. Business is business, and you got to go where the money's at. But at the same time, you know for a fact that these prices are not going to go down. I mean, one of the biggest complaints that a lot of people had this year were the prices for this year's WrestleMania. Not just because of the fact that Las Vegas alone is expensive, because you got to take into consideration your flights, you got to take into consideration your hotels, food, not only WrestleMania, but the Hall of Fame and also WWE World. All that shit's expensive. And, you know, WWE really, and I don't care what anybody says, I don't care if your product is hot. And look, on one hand, it's understandable because their product is hot, and not to mention it's also WrestleMania. But you can't deny WWE outpriced their audience. They outpriced their fan base and had the audience and fans pay top dollar, I mean thousands of dollars, for probably, you know, the worst seats possible. And I could imagine how much those front seats cost. I mean, even the cheapest seats would probably go around $600, $700. Nobody can afford that. I am sorry, especially at this stage of the economy, nobody can afford that. I am sorry. But clearly people do, because they spend enormous amounts of money for crappy seats. But it's not really a WWE thing, it's a TKO thing. TKO does the exact same thing with the UFC. They outprice their fans constantly. Not to mention, if you are a fan of the UFC, you have to pay $80 for a pay-per-view. That is insane. That's just my opinion. But from what it looks like, Las Vegas is going to be the host city for next year's WrestleMania. And in my opinion, it is a disappointment simply because of the fact that WrestleMania this year was a disappointment, not just because of the pricing, but if you watch the feed on Peacock, the crowd did seem dead. And it was kind of the similar thing with AEW when they constantly went to Las Vegas every single year. You definitely noticed it in the crowds. The crowds in Las Vegas are just not the best crowds, in my opinion. But if you attended the show in Las Vegas, you may say otherwise. I'm just talking about my perspective from watching on television. This reminds me of WrestleMania's 4 and 5. That's what it reminds me of, because if you guys don't know, WrestleMania's 4 and 5 took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey. This is a very similar instance with WWE potentially going to Las Vegas, and from what it looks like, that is most likely to be the case. They're going to be headed to Las Vegas once again next year for WrestleMania. So yeah, that was this special breaking news edition of the WrestleHavoc news. Of course, it was a big story about WrestleMania no longer taking place in the city of New Orleans. If we have any more updates, I'm going to be reporting it right here on the WrestleHavoc channel. But as always, please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. I mean, look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc channel in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the ring referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace.